All right. All right, so welcome. We're just going to start comfortably seated with your blanket close. And you can let the chin drop to the chest as we begin to transition into the practice. So we'll just start with allowing the sounds around us, Tank licking his foot, to just kind of hang out in our soundscape. So take a moment just to listen for things that are far away. So maybe it's someone in another room or cars outside. And start to bring your sound attention closer. The sounds in the room. And then just start to listen to the sound of your own breath. Without needing to quantify or qualify the type of breath you're having, just listen to your own breath. Maybe you're just breathing in and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the mouth, or a combination. And just spend about 3 more breaths investigating the sound of your breath. Then we'll switch to sensations on the body. Becoming aware of warmth and coolness. Maybe the toes are feeling a little bit cool, the fingers or the face or the back of the neck. Noticing the pressure of the hands on the knees, the weight of the body on the floor. Becoming aware of the places where the body is connected to the ground. Places where the body is touching itself. So the hands on the knees, the wrap in the ankles, armpits, on the side waist. Just allowing your attention to bounce around to these different sensations on the body. The weight of the eyelids on the eyeballs if the eyes are closed. Any taste in the mouth or things that you can smell. And just noticing the light filtering behind the eyelids if the eyes are closed, if the eyes are open. Just noticing the light. And now that we have this built up connection through the body, we're going to transition to the ground with your blanket. You're going to take your blanket, so just maybe wanting to listen first, you're going to take your blanket and place it lengthwise so that when you come down onto the ground, the blanket is underneath the sacrum and the spine. and that your head is on the other side of the blanket. So take your time to get here. And just make sure that you have some space above you. And once you're down, we're going to do some movement and breath connection. Start by placing the hands on the belly and encouraging your belly breath. So encouraging the rise in the abdomen and the fall, the diaphragmatic breath, big inhales and exhales. And just notice how as you inhale into the belly, it gives your low back a little bit of space. So looking for that spaciousness. And then when you feel ready, you'll take your hands to either side of the side waist, staying with the belly breath. And on your next inhale, you're going to sweep the arms up above the head, reaching for the wall behind you. Still filling into the belly, and exhale. Bring the arms all the way back down. Matching that breath and movement. Bottom of the breath, the fingertips are in the side, at the side waist. Top of the breath, the arms are reaching. Just get in a nice pattern here. If you need to adjust the legs, adjust the legs. You want them to be extended, that's fine. Or the knees bend. I find the knees bend is much more comfortable for my back. And you can heel toe the feet as wide as you'd like so that you're still finding a nice wide low back. And keep going with this breath and motion. Maybe you need to slow the arms down or speed them up. Starting to gain the feeling of the entire body completely full with breath, arms above the head, even the sideways and the back side of the body, and the entire body devoid of breath with the arms at either side of the side waist. Keep going. Matching the breath and movement.
Sorry, Kate.
It's okay. See if you can just make sure all your and then you can pause at the arms at either side of the side waist. I'm just going to okay. Just double checking we're all muted. There we go. Okay. Pausing with the arms at either side of the side waist. We're going to heel toe the feet a little bit wider and then let the knees travel right and left. Windshield wipering the knees back and forth. Maybe getting a little low back adjustment. And then once you come off to one side, roll off to the side, and you're going to take that blanket out of the way and then place it on top of your belly. So we just want a little bit of weight on the tummy. It could be on the chest, just a little bit of weight here as you slide the legs out. Again, take the legs as wide as you need to. And you may even want to pull the flesh away from the low back and the sits bones. We're going to pause here. That weight on the belly with the blanket. Nice broad shoulders. Still connecting to the belly breath. So this weight on the blanket, you can feel the rise and fall of the abdomen. And then we're going to start with the movement through the right leg. We're just going to slide the right heel up and plant the foot. And then turn the knee out to the side and slide the foot back down. So we're rotating toes up, heel to the hip. Let the knee fall off to the side and then slide along the knife edge of the foot back down. And you will be familiar with this rotation. It's like our tree pose. So we're doing rolling tree pose. And if you're like me and you have that really tight hip here, go slow, and we're inhaling, drawing the knee up, exhale, releasing the leg down. Because I have this really tight hip here, I can feel this rotation of even the muscle just kind of moving slightly over, right, kind of towards the groin. And you might have that as well. So we'll stay with this rotation. We'll go for 5 more. Inhale, fill the belly, knee towards the chest. Exhale, roll out. Last one. And we'll pause with the right leg extended and just let that work settle in. And maybe it's your left leg that's your more tender leg. So perhaps get that sensation I was talking about. We'll switch to the left foot, slide the heel towards the hip, turn the knee out, and slide back down. So you'll notice that I haven't cued the breath yet. Just get used to the rotation in the leg, because it could right away feel a little pingy. And then when you feel ready, like you're able to concentrate on the movement and the breath, go ahead, inhaling and exhaling, rolling out. And seeing if you can match inhale. Get that feedback of the pressure of the blanket on the abdomen. Exhale, slide. Just 2 more. And then pausing again, both legs extended. So we're going to go back to the first leg, to your right leg. And this time we're going to start with the knee turned out. And you're going to heel toe the feet closer together, so that as if you were standing on the ground, you have the sole of the foot kind of snuggled into where the ankle is. And again, if your knee is up quite a bit, that's perfectly fine. So here we're going to inhale, slide the foot up the seam of the leg, and then exhale, you're going to turn the knee across the plane of the body and slide it back down. So this is something, if you were taking classes with me in Frenchtown, might seem a little familiar. We're just adding in the blanket, and we're adding in this full internal rotation, the knee coming across the plane of the body when you're lifted and back down. And I realize that this can be quite fatiguing for these smaller hip rotation muscles in their low back and sacrum. So if you need to take a moment and pause, go right ahead. We're trying to go for about 10, and maybe you've gone a little bit more, a little bit fewer. We'll just take 2 more. And then next time the right leg is down, just pause and let the work settle into your hip. Starting on the second side, snuggling the left sole of the foot into the right ankle. And then we'll slide left up, turn the knee, cross the body, and slide back down. And if you're like me, one hip has a greater range of motion than the other. When you get the pattern going, remember to bring the breath in, inhale. Fill the belly, exhale, like you're pressing the breath out of the body. Last 1 or 2. And then you'll pause, both legs extended. If you want to separate the feet, go right ahead. You can move this blankie even underneath the head if you wanted to. We've got a little bit of support as we draw the heels to the hips. We're going to take the hands to the hip creases and just pretend like you're walking down the street. A little bit of pressure. Palm of the hand at the hip crease. Sway the hips right and left. A couple more of these little hip walks. Then we'll hug the right knee into the chest, either interlacing behind the thigh or over the shin. Let the shoulders be nice and heavy. Draw some circles with the right toe in one direction. And then the other direction. And then if your hands are not interlaced behind the thigh, move them there. And then we're just going to start rotating through the knee. So you'll draw circles with the foot, still hugging the thigh to the chest and rotating through the knee. And once you've got about 5 times in one direction, do 5 times in the other direction. And you'll plant the right foot down. Just let the hip rest for a moment and then switch sides. Left knee into the chest. Draw circles with the left toes. Switch directions. And then we'll switch, interlace behind the thigh, starting to draw your big circles with the knee. Still pointing and flexing the foot. Switch directions. And then the left foot will come down. Heel toe the feet as wide as the mat. We'll give the low back a rest. Let the knees come to touch. And we'll just reach the arms back above the head. Nice big stretch. And hug the knees back into the chest. We'll bring the legs to their tabletop position. We're going to point the toes and then just tap the right foot and raise it up and tap the left. And if you wanted to, you could do opposite arm and leg. Or if you're feeling like you'd like a little bit more core work, you'll interlace the fingers behind the skull and hover the head, neck, and shoulders up. So a couple of options as we go back and forth in our toe taps. Once more each side. And then go ahead and plant the feet. Head, neck, and shoulders come down. I'm going to roll off to one side. So whichever side, it's fine. And we'll start with our hanging out at the beach pose. So the lower forearm to the ground, and we'll just let the head drop down. Look down to see that the hips are stacked over one another. So we're finding a little bit of balance, and you're pressing away as if you're standing on the wall behind you. We want that lower rib cage to dip down towards the mat. So you'll have the sensation of elongation from the hip, lower hip, up into the armpit, and just let the head drop down. So we're going to pause here, making any adjustments that you need to define the stacking of the hips. See if you can relax through the hip and the sideways. And then we're going to draw that top knee in towards the chest. The top knee is drawing in towards the chest, rotate and slide it out. Just another type of these hip rolls. And if it feels like it's too much, you could bend the lower knee. Maybe it's a little bit easier now that you're on your side. And then we'll go the other direction. Slide the foot up, rotate the knee down, and press. And we're going to match this with a little bit of strengthening. So the next time that the legs are extended, we'll take the top foot, we're going to bring it forward slightly, turn the toe down, so an internal rotation, and then lift and lower this leg. So it's a little bit in front, and the toe is facing down. See if you can do about 5 more. And then we'll let both your legs come down, and you'll slide off and roll back onto your back. Feel free to heel toe the feet wide and let the knees come to touch. Go ahead and roll off to your second side. Taking the time to create this hanging out at the beach pose, that lower rib cage dropping down, the head towards the ground, stacking the hips. Might need to come forward a little bit on the hip or back. So just get used to this opening in the side waist. Top knee, draw it in, rotate, press away. 2 more in this direction. Then we'll go the other way, sliding up, rotate down. And going for at least 10. Maybe one more, maybe 2. Next, landing with both legs extended, we'll slide the top foot forward slightly, turn the toe down, and lift and lower the leg. And if you need to have the lower knee bent, that's fine. After this last one, go ahead, roll back onto your back. And let the knees come to touch if you'd like, or keep them separated. We're just going to do about 10 to 15 of our bridge lifts, and then we're going to move to all fours. So setting up just like we did at the top of class, with the spine on the mat, lots of length, so if you have to shimmy up or down, go ahead. The hands will start at either side of the side waist. And if you're someone that's still kind of practicing the not clenching the buttocks when you're in bridge, then I would recommend taking a block and squeezing a block between the inner thighs. So that way you get that sensation of the inner thigh rotation, and you'll feel a little bit of opening at the low back. Lots of us have a tendency to squeeze and try and press the hips up, and that actually locks the low back, and our situ actually is a extension. Okay. So with that extra info, decide how you'd like to set up for bridge. Squeezing the block if you have it, or just feeling that internal thigh rotation. Hands up, start on either side of the side waist. In our big inhale, lift, sweep the arms above the head, and exhale, roll down. So just remember, as you're inhaling, well, breathing into the belly, and we're looking up, maybe 45 degrees at where the ceiling and the wall meet, or up at the ceiling, but try and keep from looking around here. So if you need to look, pause at the bottom, look over. You just don't want any more pressure on the neck. And you might be going a little bit more slowly or more quickly than I am. 5 more rounds. After this last one, if you have the block, you can ditch it off to the side. Maybe windshield wiper the knees. As we roll off to one side, or you could roll along the spine and come up. And I like taking my blanket for the knees, a little bit of support here. And placing the blanket underneath the knees. Having your blocks relatively close. Gotta turn some up. Having your blocks relatively close. And just step that right foot back and shift your weight back and forth. And then pressing back into the heel, press up between the shoulder blades and push the left ankle and toes down into the ground. Pause here. Trying to feel the low back. The right hip is going to rock down slightly to maintain flat back, and then lift the leg up. Keep pushing down into the ground. You're just going to slide the left fingertips out. Keep pressing away, and then when you feel ready, hover the left arm up. Hi, Ben. Bring the left hand back down, bring the right knee back down, and we'll just curl the toes under and find a little cat-cow here. Bye. Switching sides. Step the left foot back, shift your weight back and forth. Maybe wanting to move the right knee out of the way. Then we'll flip the right toes over, press into the mat, rock the left hip down so you have a flat back, and cat the back. Pushing the ground away, lift the left leg up, big toe rotating towards the right ankle, and then slide the right fingertips out. When you feel ready, hover the right arm. One more breath. And then the hand will come down, followed by the knee. We'll curl the toes under and wave through the spine. Last wave. And from here, we're going to slide the right knee forward and slide the left leg back so that we're in this low lunge. And if you're not quite getting the hip to the heel here, you could bring a block and place it underneath. If you are getting the hip to the heel, we're going to start to walk forward. So a version of lizard lunge, but really trying to stretch out the left psoas. So we're dropping the left hip down and reaching forward. Bring the hands back, left knee back down, followed by the right. You can sway the hips if you'd like. And then we'll slide the left knee forward and the right leg back. Pressing back, maybe start to crawl forward. One more breath. And back up. Drop the knees down. We're going to take the knees wide and find a child's pose. You can move your blanket off to the side. Keep reaching the sits bones and the hips back and the fingertips forward. Walk the hands back to the knees and bring the knees together as much as you can as we crawl forward again. So here we want the belly on top of the thighs as much as you can this morning. Let the head hang, and if you need to bring the arms out to the side, that's fine. And go back to that belly breath. So you're inhaling and pressing the belly to the thighs, feeling the back side of the body, and exhale, softening. One more breath. We'll slide the hands back and push the ground away to lift the chest. So you might come all the way up or you might be forward a little bit, and that's okay. We're going to bring the arms out, squeeze those inner thighs together, and then we're going to press ourselves up onto the knees so that you're standing on tops of the knees. And as you exhale, come forward and down. Inhale up and exhale down. Squeezing the inner thighs together or towards one another, so if the legs are slightly separated, that's fine. Pushing into the top toe of the feet. So your toes are pressing down, the shins are pressing down. Just a couple more. Plant the hands, walk the hands back, and we'll bring the legs around. And just find a comfortable cross-legged position. Of course, the dogs are right in the way. Obsessing over each other. To your blankie, to your blankie. There you go. Okay. So just notice which shin naturally wants to be in front. Which dog naturally wants to bother you. And then we're going to forward fold. So as you're forward fold, we're coming forward mindfully instead of just collapsing forward. See if you can anchor down the sits bones and the hips. Reach forward and then reach the arms forward. Keep trying to grow a little bit longer in your inhales and reach the sits bones back. Softening the inner thighs. So I know I talked a lot about activating the inner thighs. Here we actually want to soften them so that the weight of the body is heavy. And then whichever shin is in front, you're going to crawl the fingertips towards that front knee. If you notice that the opposite hip is popping up, see if you can anchor it back down. And then crawl off to your second side. Walk the hands back to center. We'll take the fingertips behind you, unlace the legs, plant the feet, fingertips towards the front of the room. As you squeeze the shoulder blades together, press the ground away, and let the head drop back. So the jaw away from the skull, you should have a little bit of space there. Keep pressing the ground away, squeezing the shoulder blades together, lifting through the sternum. Drop the chin back to the chest and take that opposite shin in front. Anchor those sits bones down. And it might even mean that little pressure of wrapping the hips away as you forward fold. Soften the inner thighs. And keep intentionally reaching through the crown of the head and dropping the hips back. Inhale, reach, exhale, soften the hips back and away. 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then front knee, you'll walk the fingertips towards that side. And crawl the fingertips to the opposite side. Opposite hip point, pressing down still. Back to center as we walk the hands back, unlacing the legs, pressing the feet down. So you could take the hands a little bit wider. You could turn the fingertips away to get more space in the chest as you let the head drop back. So up to you, you can either stay there or you'll inhale, press the hips up, and exhale, tap the hips back down. So if this aggravates the shoulders at all, then don't do it. Couple more. If you're coming up, or 2 more breaths. Then we'll all come back down, tuck the tailbone, and roll down onto the mat. Ironing out the spine. We'll heel toe the feet wide, let the knees drift right and left. And then the next time your knees are off to the right, you'll roll slightly to the right so that your butt is off the floor a little bit. Lift the left arm above the head. And then very slowly drop that left hip back down. So it might take a couple of times of rolling and then softening back down. So you get the extension that feels right for you this morning. And once you have it, if you wanted to, you could press. You could see I'm pressing my left knee more towards the ground and elongating the top of the thigh and still keeping the twist. Lots of options here. And my hand on my belly, I'm still inhaling, filling the belly up, and exhaling, softening. Two more breaths. And really just letting the weight of the legs open up this top hip. And unlace yourself. Roll back to neutral, and we're gonna let the knees come together. And perhaps you're feeling a little bit of a stretch at the sacrum, or right where the sacrum and the vertebrae meet. So just let that calm down for a moment. And once it feels like it's settled back down, windshield wiper the knees back and forth until they come off to the left side. So you might want to do the couple more rotations, and then off to the left, roll to the left, arm above the head, and then rock that hip back a couple of times. Eventually, perhaps taking the left ankle on top of the right thigh. And just letting the weight of the legs open up the front of the hip. Just remember, pinching, pulling, and pain are not good. But slight discomfort is okay. Two more nice big breaths to the belly. And unlace the legs. Roll back to your neutral low back. Knees come to touch. We'll just stay here for a moment. We're going to roll all the way onto the stomach. The legs separate. Create a little pillow for the forehead, or if you have your blanket, you can roll up the edge of the blanket. And you just get used to lying on the tummy. Good. We're going to create our Sphinx pose. You're not going like this. There you go. Pressing the ground away, forearms down. You're just going to wiggle the tailbone back and forth. And then we're going to do our frog pose. So the right knee is going to come out to the side. If you're finding that this is creating tension in the low back, then move back onto your belly. And soften through the right hip. Maybe draw the knee up a little bit more. Soften through the hips. We have our half frog here. If you're starting to get any cramping, slide the leg back down. And if you're okay, you're just going to flex and kind of move through that right ankle. You know, Tinky and Scotch are in the way, but I'm lifting and lifting, pressing up and down. There we go. So either maybe just moving through the ankle or whole all the way up to the knee. Kind of like you're making these little kicks. If you're finding that the kicks are too difficult, then don't worry about it. Just stay as you are. And wherever you are, we'll slide that right leg back, take a little break. Remembering the big breaths to the belly. And then Sphinx pose again. Left knee out to the side. Deciding on the range of motion for this side. Soften the low back, the hips. Maybe drawing the knee up a little bit more. Maybe just rocking through the ankle. Or if you feel ready, you'll lift and lower. And just be aware that if you're lifting and lowering, that the opposite side of the body isn't taking over the work. You're just keeping it with the left leg. If you're doing the kicks, one or two more. And if you're just sitting with this and the breath, that's great. And we'll slide the left leg back. So we're going to take our blanket, wherever your blanket is, and you're going to fold it up into a square. And you're going to place that square as high as you want it to be. Roll off to one side or come up to the knees. We're going to place it right underneath the hips. So that you've got a lift. And then come on down to the belly again. So unlike when we do this and we're trying to activate in the abdomen, we're underneath, we're right at the hip point here. You might need to, mine was a little bit lumpy. I'm going to change it around. And come on down. Take the legs as wide as you'd like. And we're spending at least 5 breaths here. And you may choose to stay here through the close of class. One more inhale and exhale. Feel free to stay just as you are, or you could roll off to one side, scoot your blankie out of the way, or put it underneath your knees. Another nice option. And we'll spend another 7 to 10 intentional breaths in Shavasana. So whatever feels right for you, and the knees could be bent. We'll go back to the sensation of the breath in the body. Listening for sounds that are close. Listening for the breath traveling in and out of the body. Feel the jaw heavy away from the skull, the tongue heavy in the mouth. The weight of the body pressing down towards the ground, and the ground coming up to meet the body. And see if you can get a little bit heavier as you inhale. Nice big exhale. One more breath like that. You're more than welcome to stay just as you are for as long as you would like, or if you're ready, you might want a full body stretch or slide the heels to the hips and come up to a seat. You're coming up to a seat. Once you get up, draw some circles with the nose in one direction. Switch direction. I'll let the chin drop to the chest. Take a nice big extension out through the arms. We'll hug one arm on top of the other. Wrap yourself in a nice big hug, chin to the chest. Inhale, we're going to open the arms. This time let the head drop back. And then wrap your opposite arm on top, chin to the chest. Go ahead and slide the hands together at heart center. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Nice audible sigh out. Thanking yourself for coming to a practice this morning.